can't handle the truth.
Entirely legitimate topic for debate.
You have offended my family.
Hey, this is great, man.
And you have offended a Shaolin temple.
One major responsibility is to encourage people to use less drugs.
I know nothing.
I support a change in law to end federal criminal penalties for possession of up to 1 ounce of marijuana.
We don't need no stinking budget.
Homosexuality, immorality in general.
How in the century you have slurred the meaning of the words we, the people.
Be warned, this is not your mother's marijuana.
You could ask yourself a question. Do I feel lucky? Well, do you, punk?
I want to ask you a bunch of questions. I want to have them answered immediately.
Surely you can't be serious.
I am serious. And don't call me Shirley.
Radical Rant.
All right, welcome back, everybody. 45 after the hour. And today I want to talk about the long road from legalization to equalization. We've just legalized marijuana here in the state of Oregon and Alaska. We're 2 years into legalization in Colorado and Washington state. And people are thrilled to no longer be treated as criminals for their marijuana use. And I believe that severely understates our case. Yes, of course, like my friend Jody Emery in Canada once pointed out, if you're being whipped 7 days a week, you don't refuse to take weekends off if they're offered, right? So yeah, it'd be nice not to be whipped anytime, but if you can get a weekend off, you'd take it, right? And that's how I feel about us as cannabis consumers, is that we've been whipped 7 days a week, and legalization has finally given us the weekends off. But we have so far to go until we are treated as equals in this society. See, as the way I see it, it's not so much a question about whether a drug should be illegal. It's whether its users should be treated as equals. In this country, we have already set a very strong precedent that we have the right to get intoxicated. We have the right to mess up our perceptions. And I express that as a right because it's in our Constitution. Intoxicating is in our Constitution in the 21st Amendment. And, for that matter, the 18th that repealed it. But the 21st Amendment, by repealing the 18th, returned us back to a situation where it was assumed that Americans had the right to consume intoxicating liquors and spirits. We were a country founded by beer drinkers, cider drinkers, wine drinkers, and liquor drinkers. If you've ever seen the bar tab from the Constitutional Convention, you would know just what a set of lushes our founding fathers were. And I don't mean that in a negative way. Brilliant men, brilliant philosophies, kind of myopic and short-sighted based on their treatment of black people and so forth, but still the best constitution, the best democracy that could have been thought of back in the 18th century. So these men got intoxicated. They felt there was a right to be intoxicated, and our 21st Amendment reaffirmed that right to get intoxicated. But more so than looking at it as a legal perspective, I look at it as a cultural imperative. Our culture couldn't be more seeped in drugs if it tried. The oxymoron of a drug-free America has never been true, and to tell you the truth, most Americans wouldn't want it to be true. We love our drugs. We love our alcohol. We love our prescription pills. And to some extent, we even still love our tobacco. I should say we love our nicotine, so that we can include the nicotine gums and patches that go in that as well. So for me, it's not a question of how harmful alcohol is or how bad weed gets you messed up or whatever. It's a cultural and constitutional point that adults have the right to alter their perceptions through the use of substances. Now, we do have different regulations on that. We do have regulations to prevent, too much harm to society coming from individuals' use of substances. We don't let people drive drunk. We set a limit for that. We don't allow drunkenness to be an excuse for boorish behavior. We have laws against that. And to some extent, we even have dry counties in this country that don't allow any alcohol sales at all. But for the most part, in America, You're allowed to be a drunk. You're allowed to be a raging alcoholic if you so choose. Now, if you drive drunk as an alcoholic, we'll put you in prison. If you beat your spouse as an alcoholic, we'll call the cops and throw you in the tank and put a restraining order against you. But the use of alcohol itself, even to a deleterious effect to the user, is something we accept as a right in a free society. You have the right to be an alcoholic bum. So for me, the real question is, why do we as pot smokers have any fewer rights than beer drinkers? Now, if we go back to the relative harm of both substances, cannabis and alcohol, to both user and society, we will find that in every respect, marijuana causes less harm. This is recognized by numerous polls where people will say that marijuana is safer than alcohol, or at very least, no more dangerous than alcohol. Even our president says marijuana is no more dangerous than alcohol. So if that's the case, if we have two substances whose threat to individual and society are roughly equal or far less, then it makes no sense to treat the users of that substance with more restrictions than the users of the more dangerous substance. For instance, beer drinkers aren't limited to buying just one six-pack at the store. They're not limited in that they can only keep 2 cases of beer in their house. A beer drinker, if he or she so chooses, can go to, in my state, a grocery store. Some states a liquor store, but you can go and buy kegs, plural, of beer. I once threw a party where we had 10 kegs of beer. I was 22, 23 years old when I threw that party. Perfectly legal for me to go with a van and pick up 10 kegs of beer. Yet, they expect us marijuana smokers to be happy that we can now finally buy an ounce at a store, that we can now finally possess 8 ounces at home, in the case of Oregon. It's a good start, but it's nowhere near the equality that I'll settle for until you start telling me beer drinkers are limited to 6 packs and a couple of cases. There is no reason why an adult should be limited in how much marijuana they can purchase or possess. The only reason that even comes close to being legitimate is to prevent someone from stockpiling marijuana in a legal state so that they may distribute it in an illegal state. And that, to me, folks, is my rights as an Oregonian being punished and curtailed because Idaho can't get its shit together, or Nebraska, or Kansas, or whatever state it might go out to. Beer drinkers have plenty of places where they can publicly enjoy their beer, not just indoors, but they have beer gardens, beer festivals. You can, in a lot of cities, pack up a bottle of wine or a case of beer and take it to a park with you and enjoy it with your friends. So yes, I'm happy that I'm no longer treated as a criminal for smoking weed in my own home, but I will not be satisfied until I have the same rights a beer drinker has, until we have marijuana bars that I can go to and congregate with my friends, until I'm allowed to go and smoke pot in a public park in a specially designated area. We are not equals. Advertisement. Beer, oh my God. I would be hard pressed to make it through a day without seeing advertisement for beer in some respect. I can't walk down the streets for a block or two without seeing an advertisement for a bar. Oftentimes a bar that'll have like a little neon cocktail glass as its logo, or a frosty mug, a suds, as its logo. Perfectly okay to not only advertise beer, but to promote it with symbology of beer. But marijuana? We can't have advertisement for marijuana? The pot shops can't show a pot leaf? Again, I'm at least happy that we finally get to some pot marketplaces. But we're forcing pot marketplaces to be more restricted in their advertising, more restricted in their marketing, in their outside of their store promotions, their signage, more restricted than not only a tavern or a bar, but a freaking strip club or a porno shop has more advertising rights than a marijuana shop does. So it's great that we've been legalized to have our pot shops, but until we're equal in our abilities to advertise, market, and promote, we haven't gone far enough. As a beer drinker, there's very little chance that my use of beer, even my alcoholic binge drinking dysfunctional use of beer, is going to cost me a shot at employment. Very few employers are drug testing for alcohol, and even if they did, it flushes from your system so quickly it wouldn't even be worth testing. Now, if I show up to work drunk, yeah, they can fire me. But for the most part, as long as my drinking doesn't affect my work, my drinking is not going to affect my employment. But with marijuana smokers, as we all know, we can be discriminated against before they even offer us a job. Washington, D.C. made headlines this week for passing a bill that says that they can't drug test you for pot until they've offered you a conditional offer of employment. So they're even just saying, look, you can not hire people if they're potheads, but you first have to offer them the job. That's it. That's the small step we've made. It's still okay to discriminate against us, but you have to offer them a job first. At least that's better than not even getting through to the having my resume scanned portion of the contest because my pee comes up dirty or my armpit hair has metabolites in it. Drinking beer, by and large, is not going to cost you your child custody. If you're a divorced parent, an adoptive parent, you're not going to have any problem with the state or your ex if you're a beer drinker. Now, if you're an alcoholic, perhaps, if your behavior through your drinking of alcohol has been shown to be dysfunctional and harming that child, yeah, you might lose your child custody. But the mere fact that you like to drink a beer at the end of the day after a long day work is not enough to take your kid from you. But with marijuana, in almost every state it is. Just the mere fact that you have marijuana in the house can get your kids taken from you. So yes, it's nice that we're legalized and not taken away from our children by cops. But until we're equalized and not having our children taken away by CPS, there's still a long way to go. And for my friends, and I have a few, who need organ transplants or who have had organ transplants, their use of alcohol, by and large, does not discriminate against their ability to get an organ transplant. Now, there are some little sticking points there. If you're looking for a liver transplant and you're a full-blown alcoholic, you're not going to get your liver transplant. They will evaluate your alcohol use to see if it's dysfunctional enough to possibly cost you that organ. But the mere use of a beer, drinking a beer with dinner or a margarita with dinner, is not enough to deny your organ transplant. But merely mention that you smoke pot to most organ transplant clinics, even in a legal medical marijuana state, even when you have your doctor's recommendation to do so, that can get you kicked off the list. And they won't let you back on the list until you stop using marijuana for 6 months, 60 days, depends on the clinic, and you can pass one of their piss tests. This directly killed a man named Tim Guerin in 2008 when I first started my job as a marijuana journalist. I had to learn how this Seattle musician lost his chance at a replacement liver and died because he was using medical marijuana because his doctor said it would be the best pain reliever because it doesn't kill your liver. So yes, it's nice that we've got marijuana legalization. That's not the end of the journey, folks. It's just the first step. It's time for us to start marching toward equalization and let that be our new buzzword. All right, folks, that's all the time we got for Hour 1. Thanks for joining us. Stay tuned for Hour 2, Toker Talk Radio. I got to talk a little bit about college football. You know that's coming up. Plus, we got some other stories to talk about in the hopper, so stay tuned. More marijuana discussions coming up on Toker Talk Radio. For everyone here at 420 Radio, I'm Radical Russ. Thanks for joining us. Till next time, take care of each other, tokers.
This is the Russ Belville Show. The Russ Belville Show is blogging and podcasting daily at radicalruss.com.